Good morning, everyone. Today is our last day of lessons for our measurement chapter. So as the teacher told you, our test is going to be next Wednesday, that's February the 21st, and it's going to cover all of the measurement stuff that we've done so far: perimeter, area, Pythagorean theorem, and volume. So today we're going to take a look at the volume of our last three-dimensional shape, and that's a sphere. So you should have this handout in front of you. Make sure that you pause the video whenever you need to stop and write down something that I've said, because I'm going to move a little bit faster than I do in class. So first of all, grab your formula sheet and find the sphere on your formula sheet. You should notice that there are two different formulas that you can use. The one has 4 divided by 3 out front of pi r cubed, or the second one has 4 times pi times r cubed over 3. So I'm going to use that second version of our formula. So it's 4 times pi times r cubed, all being divided by 3. So I know I can move that divided by 3 to the back when I actually calculate some volumes. In our first example, we're going to find the volume of a basketball with a diameter of 29 centimeters. Now, I notice that my formula doesn't have a diameter, it has radius. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what is the radius of the basketball. To do that, I take the diameter, 29, and I have to divide it into 2. So I'm going to type that into my calculator, and I get an answer of 14.5. And the units are the same as the diameter units, so they're also centimeters. Now I'm going to find the volume of the basketball. So I write V equals, so to show that I'm calculating the volume. And then I go to my formula sheet, and I find the basketball shape, which we call a sphere in math class. And I'm going to copy down the formula for the volume of a sphere. Don't forget that divided by 3, I could write it underneath like I did in the green box above, or I could just write divided by 3 at the end like this. So now I'm going to replace the r with the number 14.5. The 4 times pi times is still there, but now I'm going to replace the r with 14.5, and it's still being cubed, and then I'll divide by 3. Now I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to think through BEDMAS. So there's no brackets, but there are exponents. I'm going to type those in first. So 4 times pi times, I'm going to leave a space. I'm going to put my answer there, and then I know I still need to divide by 3 at the end. So I grab my calculator and I type in 14.5 to the power of 3. If you can't find your power button, I want you to ask your neighbor, or if you still can't find it, you have to type in 14.5 times itself 3 times. So 14.5 times 14.5 times 14.5. And you should get an answer of 3048.625. Now that I have all multiplication and dividing, I can type this all in at once. If you don't like to use your pi button, you could type in 3.14 when you get to the pi. I used my pi button, and I got this answer. If you didn't use your pi button, you used 3.14, you'll get a number close to mine, but the decimal is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to round this so that there's one number after the decimal. So I'm looking at that first number after the decimal, and the guy right after him makes the decision. Because it's a 5, I'm going to round up. So this becomes 12,770.1. And my units here are centimeters, and because it's volume, it's centimeters cubed. Because there's a story here, I'm going to write a sentence to finish it off. So therefore, the volume of the basketball is 12,770.1 centimeters cubed. So take a minute to pause the video and copy down that solution. You should have finished copying that question now, and we're going to move on to the ice cream question. So this one tells me to find the volume of all of the ice cream, and I get to assume that the entire cone is filled up with ice cream, plus there's that scoop of ice cream on the top. So there's two pieces here that I need to find the volume of, the scoop on top and all the ice cream inside. Before I do that, I notice that again, they did not give me the radius. So first I need to calculate the radius of the cone. Now the diameter was 8 going all the way across, so the radius is going to be half of that. So I divide it by 2 and I get a radius of 4 centimeters. Now I'm going to find the volume of the top and the bottom separately. So for the top of the cone, I see on top there that there's a sphere, but only half of it. So it's kind of like the basketball, but it's been cut in half. So I'm going to take the sphere and divide it by 2. That means I'm going to go to my formula sheet and find the formula for the volume of a sphere, and then whatever that is at the end, I'm going to divide it by 2. So the volume of a sphere is 4 times pi times r cubed divided by 3. This was at the top of our note. But I need to divide that in 2 because I only have half of a sphere. Now for this question, I know that the radius is 4 centimeters, so when I get to the r, I'm going to replace it with a 4. It's still being cubed. And now I'm going through BEDMAS and I'm thinking there's no brackets, but there's exponents. So I'm going to type the exponent into my calculator. All of the other stuff is going to stay the same. I'm just going to go to my calculator and type in 4 to the power of 3. And when I do that, I get 64. Make sure you can find out that answer on your calculator. Now I have all multiplication and division, so I'm going to type that whole thing into my calculator. I'm going to use my pi button. So my answer might be a little bit different if you use the 3.14. So that's what shows up on my screen. I'm going to round that so that there's only one number after the decimal. So again, looking next door, that 4 is going to make the decision, and it tells me to leave it as a 0. My units again are centimeters, and because I'm doing volume, I put a cube on the centimeters. Okay, so that's how much ice cream is on the top of the cone. Now we got to figure out how much is inside the cone, or in the bottom of my picture. So you could write bottom or you could write inside there. The volume of that is going to be using my cone formula. So I know that that's a cone. I'm going to go to my formula sheet and pick the formula that I like for volume of a cone. So I'm going to choose that last one, but instead of over 3, I'm going to change it to be divided by 3 at the end. Now I have the radius of my cone. The r number we already figured out was 4, and that is the same for the top of the sphere, but also for the top of the cone at the bottom. So I know that I'm going to do pi times the radius is 4 squared times, now I need to figure out the height of the cone. So don't forget that's this line here, and the height of the cone I can see is 12. So I'll replace the h with 12, and then I'll divide by 3. Again, I'm thinking about BEDMAS. There's no brackets, but there are exponents. So I'm going to type in that exponent first, and everything else is going to stay the same. So I type the 4 to the power of 2 into my calculator. That's the same as 4 times 4, and I get 16. Now I have all multiplication and division, so I'm going to type the whole thing into my calculator at once, and I get the answer 201. And again, my decimal might be a little bit different than yours. I used my pi button, so if you use 3.14, you got a slightly different answer than me. Again, I'm going to round it so that there's one number after the decimal place. The 6 next door makes the decision, and it tells me to change that 0 up to a 1. Again, the units are centimeters, and volume tells me to cube it. Now the question, I'm going back and rereading the question. It says, find the volume of all of the ice cream. I found the ice cream on the top and the ice cream on the bottom. I need to put it together so that I have the total volume of ice cream. So my total volume is going to be the volume of the top plus the volume of the bottom. Oops. And all together I get 335.1 centimeters cubed. And then I'll write a sentence about the ice cream. So take a minute, pause the video or rewind it, and copy down that question onto your sheet. Your teacher has your homework. You're working out of your textbook, and we're starting on page 36. Have a good day.